Welcome to another edition of the Crotchety Old Men podcast, where we provide information, education, exposure, and opportunity. And today is no difference. I'm here with my sidekick, PC. How we doing today, PC?
What's up? What up, Doe? Everything's
What up,
beautiful.
Joe?
How you doing today?
I'm doing great, man. It's another great day to be alive, and I can't
Yes, yeah,
complain
any
about a
day.
thing. Definitely, definitely. Well, today we're going to share with our audience. We're going to kick off something new. We're going to talk about a little mental capacity. We're going to talk about men's health today. And PC being our chief in that particular area, the most knowledgeable guy we know that we depend on for all types of answers on, men's health and health in general from a holistic perspective. PC, I'm going to turn it over to you. How we going?
Everything is good, George. And I tell you, men's health is very important these days because when you look at the health perspective on a general basis, between men and women are 76% more likely to go to doctors and use healthcare facilities for their health, which makes them more healthier than we are. So it's a good idea today to discuss, especially since we're starting the new year. Folks get on the treadmill, they start eating healthy, and then 3 months later, they're back to the same old, same old. So we'll talk about certain subjects and subject matter that relates to men's health in particular, because there is a difference, and there seems to be a bias when it comes to health care between men and women.
Wow, interesting. So, what would you say are maybe the top two issues facing men from a health perspective?
Well, I think for one thing, when we think about health in the first place, we think about physical health. But what people don't realize, especially in my holistic capacity, is there are four platforms of health in every human being. There's the spiritual health, there's the mental health, there's the emotional health, and then there's the physical health. What's interesting about the physical health to me is that if any one of the other three platforms are out of kilter, it's manifested in your physical health. So that's how we as holistic practitioners can look at different uh, when we look at our clients and they have certain symptoms physically, we can usually pinpoint that to one of the other health platforms. They might be suffering from something mentally or something emotionally or something even spiritually. So that's the one thing that we really have to start looking at if we're going to have a whole and holistic health perspective.
So let's kind of start from the basics, just from my knowledge and folks that I've talked to. Generally, we don't go to the doctor. so
Exactly. And you know
so
what? That's the problem, George.
so how do we fix that? How do we fix that?
Well, I think we're going to have to start looking at health differently, especially with black men, because there are a lot of biases in the health industry. Period. We're not supposed to get sick. We're not supposed to show any emotions. We're expected to be on top of our game at all times, and of course, we both know we're not always on our game at all times. So there's some expectations that are very unreal as it relates to men, and I think we need to really start looking at things a little differently in terms of of health and keeping our health together and understanding that it's not just a physical thing. There are reasons why we have physical issues, and it's usually not a physical thing unless you're just sitting around like a couch potato and just not moving and grooving. If you know what I mean, and you do know what I mean, because I really value your examples in terms of getting out there, playing golf. You work out pretty much almost every day. You motivate me to get out there and work out every day or close to it at least. You know what I mean? And us crotchety old men, we have to keep it moving, and we go lose it.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I think that after we get over that hurdle of getting and explaining to men why they need to go to the doctor, we have to look at some of the symptoms and some of the things that uh, somewhat afflict us, from a aging perspective, and here again, just a general perspective. You got high blood pressure, you got prostate issues. Um, there's a lot of physical issues that we're faced with on a day-to-day basis. And how do I know? Because if you watch TV at all, that's all they talk about. Every television show, that's all they talk about is, if you look at the 6 o'clock news, 6:30 news, that's all they talk about is this medication for this. If it's almost like they're diagnosing you, as you're watching TV. You're sitting there, you're watching TV, and all of a sudden, if you suffer from X, Y, and Z, then you need to tell your doctor to prescribe so and so. And for me, it's hard to imagine me going to the doctor and saying, "Doctor, do I need to take this?" So, whatever that medication is, but that's sometimes it seems like that's the position they put us in. And that's
George,
everybody.
you raise a great point. You raise a great point. First, let's talk about the media for just a minute. Um, when we intake whatever it is we see here and whatever with the media, we're being fed in a sense, and what we're being fed with the media is advertisements. They're advertising medication. They're advertising certain doctors to have you do this, that, and the other. And those medications don't do a doggone thing but get you sicker and sicker, and they keep you coming back. Okay, so who wants to be bothered with that Ferris wheel where you constantly going back and forth? The medications that they're, I mean, I think about these medications, George, that they're advertising on TV, and what do they tell you toward the end? They list a whole list of side effects, and I'd be better off dealing with what I'm dealing with than all the side effects going along with it. Diarrhea, ED. I mean, and you taking this pill for what? So we have to be careful in terms of what we we imbibe from a social and from a communication point of view. And it's just like taking care of what we imbibe when we eat. What we eat affects our health. What we breathe affects our health. The kinds of things that we drink affect our health, and convert and quite frankly, what we see on television and listen to the radio, the kind of music that we listen to. For instance, if and you're a great music person, you know good and well that if you're listening constantly to music that has a tone, which is a tone that vibrates war, so to speak, versus a C tone, which vibrates peace and calm, you're going to be warlike.
Mhm.
I mean, there's just no other way to you know what I'm saying? There's just no
Mhm.
other way to look at it that way. If we constantly eating processed foods, then you're going to constantly be in a process. And the
Mhm.
process that you're going to constantly be in is trying to keep your health in order, which it will not be that way
Mhm.
because the processed food doesn't have any nutritional value to it. So we have to take care of what we intake, what we intake on a media level, what we intake with our food, the kind of the drinks we can, and food is tricky because the way they are processing foods these days, there's no nutritional value, even than the farm raised food, because of the food is constantly genetically altered, and some of the things that they do to the food, they know what they're doing to avoid this or that. But at the same token, if you're looking at nourishing your body on a cellular level, your cell has 7 sides. If you're feeding something that doesn't have the same 7 sides to its cellular structure, it's not going to fit inside your cell, thereby you not having cellular nutrition.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. And let's stay right there for a minute. I was listening to a publication the other day, and they were saying that the government finally got around to banning, I think it was uh, number
Dye,
three,
red dye.
red dye number
Right,
three.
right.
But they're giving them to, I think it was 2029 or something like that, to fix it. But the funny part about that is if you go over in Europe, they don't do that. You have the same manufacturers manufacture the same types of cereal, the same type of foods, processed foods, but they have better nutritional value over in Europe than they do here. And you often wonder here again, these, they're always talking about buy America, and America's gonna, this is where we want to spend our money. Yet and still, the value that we're getting, the healthy value that we're getting, is just not there. It just doesn't add up. I find myself, it's such a traumatic thing to go to the grocery store. I mean, to me, that's so traumatic because we spent probably 8 to 9 minutes standing in front of the olive oil display trying to decide which olive oil was best
Right,
for us.
right, right.
I mean, not and then the first thing you got to figure, you have to take in consideration, this olive oil I'm looking at is $35 a bottle. And so you got to first get over the shock of what it costs, but then you got to go back and look at the ingredients and see where it's made, what's in it, what additives, and then they'll say organic. Okay, so then what's the difference between organic and standard? And why is this one that way and this one? Then you got to pull out your phone and Google it and see what this particular manufacturer has, how they press theirs, and this, and it's just, going to the grocery store, for me and my wife, is a 3-hour trip, because not only do we have to go to multiple stores, you're looking at the fruit. If the fruit doesn't have a 9 on it, if it's got a 3 on it, the 3, I ain't buying no 3s, I'll buy a 4 because it's not genetically modified, but
Right.
9s are organic. And then you try to buy the bag of fruit and it don't have no number at all on it. You're saying, okay, now what do I do? Man,
And
you
that's
got to
that
work to get
vicious.
healthy.
You're right, and that's that vicious cycle that I refer to, because even with the organic numerical, it might be organic because they cover the beds that the flowers grow on or whatever. But let's say your farm is right next to.
We'll be right back.
Yeah, yeah. Let's talk about organic. Organic. Yeah, if you see a 9 on food labels, it says organic. But let's think about organic for a minute. Your organic farm is organic because of the organic stipulations. Your beds that you grow the food on have to be covered. Um, you're not using any pesticides, that sort of thing. But let's say, for instance, your farm is sitting right next to a pig farm, and those pigs are peeing, and that pee filters off from their farm and goes into your farm, and it's feeding the soil, even though your beds are raised and covered. You don't think those roots are finding that pee and consuming that pee? I mean, it's like you say, going to the store and trying to figure out these labels and whatnot. And to me, it's better to go to a farmer's market that has vegetables and fruits that are coming from other countries. We have the benefit of the farmers market in DeKalb Farmers Market. When I first went in that market, George, I was so overwhelmed. I didn't know which way to go. They had fruits and vegetables from every kind of place on earth. What I've come to find out in my study of nutrition, those fruits and vegetables, just like you said, in Europe and other places, are much more nutritious because they do not allow Monsanto's in a lot of countries. They do not um, allow uh, situations that will create disease to the magnitude that we will here in this country. Um, and if it costs more, it just costs more. And good health is no cheap thrill by any means.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so um, we need to rethink. It was always taught in health science and whatnot that it's always better for you to eat vegetables and fruits and honey and different things from your local environment. That's not true. That's not true, and it's not true anymore because your local environment is being contaminated by a lot of different things. And so you'll want to look at a farmer's market, people that are growing vegetables. If you're eating out, you want to go to a farm to table restaurant. They're a little bit more considerate of what they're bringing to their restaurants and putting in front of you. And it's a little bit more nutritious than these fast food restaurants like Applebee's. And I guess I shouldn't be naming restaurants, but I'm going to do it anyway because I'm crotchety. And so, you know, the Applebee's and all these little restaurants that have these burgers and whatnot. I mean, you got to think about what you're putting in your mouth. If a cow has got hormones, growth hormones, and chicken's got growth hormones and antibiotics and whatnot in them, you're consuming it. If you're consuming it, it's like the old saying goes, you are what you eat. So if you got all these growth hormones and these antibiotics in you, you got women that have pubic age of they raise and get to puberty at 9 and 10 years of age, the Similac and Infamil babies, I call them. So we have to be mindful and careful about the things that we eat and where they come from. And if our country's not offering us good, healthy, nutritious foods, let's look at getting our food from somewhere else.
Well, sometimes that's easier said than done. You probably end up,
And
like
it
I said,
is.
going to three different grocery stores like we do and spending 3 to 4 hours, shopping, which is no fun at all. And I didn't
It
got
is.
onto, what the final bill is that when you get to the register. But, like you say, trying to maintain quote unquote good health, because who really knows what good health is? Because you can do this and try your best and you still may end up with something, so God is in control and you just have to keep realizing that. But back to our subject, so what would you say, for men to be conscious of? I would say, top 5 things that men need to be conscious of regarding their health. What are some of the telltale signs? What are some of the things that we may notice that we might need to say, well, that mold is not just a mold. I'm just using that as an example, but what are some of the top
Right.
things that men, that because we don't, go to the doctor on a frequent basis, when we're looking in the mirror in the morning or we get up in the morning and we're feeling this and feeling that, what are some of the things that we need to look at and may need to, we may need to follow up on?
Gotta look at your health and pay attention to your health. When you see moles like that you think is just a mole, and the mole starts growing, it starts getting hard. Those are indications of a cancerous and a disease situation in that area. And our skin tells us a lot about what's going on internally with us. So it's imperative when you see things on your face, on your hands, on your butt, whatever they are, you need to go see a doctor. And that's half the battle. Like I said, when we opened up, women are 76% more likely to go to the doctor than men are. So the first thing we need to do is we need to get up our butts off the couch and go to the doctor when we see something that's out of kilter. When you see something that's different, it's taking different shape, or whatever the case might be, that's cause for concern. And that's not to say that it's perilous necessarily. It's just that it's telling us that we need to go see a doctor and get whatever it is checked out. That's the other half of the problem. Men are concerned about what the outcome might be. And the fact of the matter is, you really don't know. The doctors don't know. That's why they call it a practice. They're primarily practicing on us with some stuff. They have no idea what the outcome is going to be whatsoever, which I might add is why it's healthy to have a holistic component. Because a lot of times when you look at holistics, where they come from, where they started, um, you're looking at something that's been tried, tested, and true for over 5,000 years. Okay. Not only that, you mentioned God. God knew us when we were afraid. Okay, so he knew exactly what we were going to be faced with, and he put fruits and vegetables and different things on this earth for us to imbibe, so that we can improve our health. So we have to think in terms of that. You mentioned exercise. Exercise is key. It helps with the breathing. It helps to with the um, with the hormones. Um, those are the things that really help the health process. And so you need to get those kind of things going and motivated and boiling, almost like a pot of water on the stove boiling. And you know quite a bit about exercise because you're involved on a regular basis with exercise. You're teaching children how to do it. You've got folks that you're working with in your communities. I mean, you're a great picture for health, George. I would say, as far as physical health is concerned. I know we're crotchety and
I'll
all that.
receive that.
And the other thing is, we have to look at the other components. And when I say components, I mean the mental, the emotional, and the spiritual. Okay, those are very key important things. So let's talk about the emotional slash mental, if you will. It's interesting that um, men and women suffer the same amount of emotional and mental disease and disorders as men do, but men are twice as likely to commit suicide. And why do you think that is? That's because women go to doctors, they get the pills that are prescribed, even though they might be psychotropic and dull some other things that are necessary for your coexistence. They do stop the depression, they stop the anxiety, and those are the things that create disturbing behavior. Um, and so when you start to see disturbing behavior, for instance, in men, you start to see men isolating from their communities, their society, their social groups, and so forth. These are just some of the few of the symptoms that tell us that, okay, we need to check it in and we need to check our mental health. Okay.
Mhm.
Um, um, Good social support. We talked about some of the things, and here's some of the things that I was looking at that Piedmont came up with. And positive emotional well-being lowers the risk of disease, sickness, and injury. Um, so how do we support those things? Good social support. Meditation is a good alternative. Hobbies are a good alternative. George, you and I play golf. I fish whenever I get a chance to fish, as well as you do. Regular exercise and nutritious foods, which is what we talked about earlier. Those are some of the things that keep us in good mental health. And as a result, the mental health keeps our physical health in order.
Mhm.
When our
Mhm.
mental health is out of kilter, our physical health becomes out of kilter because all of the things that promote healthy and good exchange with endorphins, with hormones or whatever, are now um, subjected to these kinds of social and behavioral ills. And so that's that's something that men need to really focus on is their mental health. And they don't do it because, we're supposed to be the breadwinners. We're supposed to be strong. We're not supposed to have these emotional outbreaks. We're not supposed to fail and all of that kind of stuff. I mean, these are things that society has put on us that we have to break and we have to change. And until that happens, you're going to see statistics like this where men are 2 and 3 times more likely to commit suicide because they don't go to anybody. They don't
Mm.
address issues. There are social stigmas related to men having depression and anxiety. And with society, as crazy as it is, I mean, who doesn't have a bit of anxiety or depression the way things are going right now? That's
Mhm.
just that's just out of the question. But there are things in place that will help us calm down. The meditation is so beneficial when you sit for at least 15 minutes. If you don't do anything but sit quietly for 15 minutes and don't have your mind on anything, just leave it blank. I mean, it doesn't have to be. You don't have to be meditating on this or that or the other. And actually, meditation is is something that clears your mind, and it allows as you get rid of the clutter that you collect on a daily basis from your daily lives. It offers you some peace and some love of self. And we need that. We need that regularly. Go ahead, George.
Well, you call it meditation. I call it an afternoon nap myself. Yeah, I'll sit here, either on the couch or in my chair in the office, and I'll look and see what time I need to be at basketball practice, and I'll close my eyes and hope I don't oversleep. And 15 minutes later, I'll look at my watch and say, "Oh, I still got 5 minutes." But hey, I do that most days. If nothing but to recharge myself and to put myself in a different mindset as to going to deal with this team and deal with something that I love and enjoy. But I mean, you hit a couple of good points, and I think from a men's health perspective, we need to really kind of hone in on those kind of things. As far as one of them being community, it's so important that we have
Right,
a community, a support community that we can talk to, because we have issues. Because I'll be the first to tell you, mental illness does exist. It's real. Mental health is real. Men, women, and children, and it's because of the fact that we're bombarded with so much information. I don't want to get too far off the subject, but think about it. Going into 2025, where are we going to get our news from? What's a good news source? And from and just looking at that as a question causes a lot of people anxiety, because you don't know where to get factual information, and that
right,
can really you know make you anxious and unsure and question a lot of different things.
right,
But we really have to examine our mental surroundings. Like I said, it's important that we have a community and a outlet to communicate with others that are of the same mind, and then sometimes even those that are different, because we want to hear what they have to say, because that makes us a more of a rounded person, because of the fact that we have to face the fact that we don't know it all. So hearing
correct.
other people's opinions and objections to different subjects is important to us. Like I said, exercise is so important. It
True.
releases a lot of stress on a daily basis, and it's been proven that that helps us. Helps your body as far as motion, stretching, those kind of things. It obviously helps with monitoring your weight. But those types of things for men is it's so important. And then say go to the doctor, and because they may see something, that you may see, that, that pain in your left hip, or that ringing in your ear, or that, those spots you see in your eye, all that stuff may not be normal. So you need to go and get it checked out. One of the things that always fascinates me is when you go to the doctor for physical, she looks at your eye, but they never tell you what they see. But I know, and I'm going to let you expand on this, but I know from in your profession, holistic health, you look in people's eyes for a reason. Because I went to a person long time ago, and they looked and they told me, when you look in somebody's eyes, you can see, it basically tells you any illness they've had previously and what to look for going forward. But doctors never tell you that.
That's because doctors, they look at it like this. When you go to medical school, and I haven't been to medical school per se. I'm not an MD. I'm an ND, a naturopathic doctor, and I've gone to school for that. And basically, the difference between the two schools is that MDs learn certain things about the eyes, which tell a lot. The iris itself is more telling for us as holistic doctors than it is for the medical doctor. Um, the conjunctive, which is the conjunctiva, which is the white around the eye, that tells them certain things about your health. Okay, but it doesn't tell them the whole story. So when you look at the iris has, if you were to look at a clock, there are seven positions that you want to look at in terms of the where the organs are located. Um, like for instance, I can look in your eye, and let's say, for instance, if you have a leaky gut, I can tell you where in your colon the leak is coming from, and I can tell you what organ the leak is going into and it's affecting. Okay, so when you study iridology, which medical doctors do not, they're looking at the eye from a more physical kind of notion in terms of what kind of maladies it can tell the MD. Um, for the naturopathic doctor, iridology is more of a diagnostic tool that's been around for 5,000 years. Okay, so it for the naturopath, it explains and tells a heck of a lot more. And that's one of the things that I use when I do a complete and full workup. I do an iridology exam on you, and that kind of tells me certain things. I do a facial; they call it physiognomy. Um, if you had a imposition of your body parts on your face, starting from your head down to your chin, it tells you certain things like puffy eyes relates to kidneys. Red nose relates to lung inflammation, and so forth and so on. So if I see three things about you that are cause from concern, then there's some things we need to zero in on in terms of health, in terms of the organs that are affected, and so forth and so on. But no, doctors really don't look at the eye from an um, um, iridology perspective. They look at it from the health of the eye. But there's a lot. I would suggest that you go to an iridologist, and they'd be able to describe a lot about your internal health,
Mhm.
a lot more than a medical doctor. And it's not a medical doctor's fault that they can't do it. They're just not trained in that way. It's they're not trained in nutrition either. They
Mhm.
know healthy foods are good, and they probably go to a class here and there to kind of help them with their practice, so they have certain understandings about things. But when you go to medical school, they do not teach you nutrition per se.
Mhm. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
What does that say?
Yeah.
We need to rely on ourselves to
Oh
do
yeah.
the research. And like you were saying, and I'm in total agreement with this, and I'm even more concerned and more anxietous, if you will, about the idea of having AI come in here and infiltrating our lives like it is, because you don't know what the truth is and what's not. I mean, next week they could have me and you, and not that we're there, but me and you will be on something next week talking about whatever, and we haven't said a word and we haven't been anywhere. You know what I mean? I mean, that's the kind of anxiety people have about the future, and that's why, for me, as far as mental health, which in turn affects physical health, it's important to have mental health in order, to have your spiritual health in order, to have your emotional health in order. It's important to be healthy thinking. If you're not thinking right, then your outcomes aren't going to be right. If
Hmm.
your outcomes aren't going to be right, your physical health isn't going to be right. Because let's say we didn't talk about this, but let's talk about anxiety and depression for a moment. If we talk about anxiety and depression for a moment, how does that show up physically? Well, um, because cortisol levels are affected. You talked about sleep. That's so important because that sleep um, really helps to balance the cortisol levels in your body. Without that, you're subject to all kinds of anxieties, as a result of that. And what that does, that drives certain organs. Your heart rate goes up. There's more adrenaline and norepinephrine in your heart. Heart starts beating fast. Okay, you begin to get out of breath after so long of that process going on. Digestive system is affected. It turns out more acid, get ulcers. So there's a direct connection with keeping our spiritual, our mental, and our emotional health in order to help keep our physical health in order. And it's so important for us to look at health from those four platforms. Even though the platforms are all different, they're interconnected. And that's what's different about medicine. Medicine compartmentalizes this and puts this over here, and it works with that, not giving a damn about if you give them a pill for this over here, not giving a damn about what it affects over there. And you can tell by the effects when you see something on the TV. Uh, be careful about this. You're gonna vomit. You're gonna have all this diarrhea, and you can't have any sex because you can't get it up. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, on that note, I
Were we
think we've
crotchety enough, Joe?
yeah, I think we provide our audience with a lot of information today, and I think that it's important. And that's what we're trying to do is, give the exposure to, men's health and just health in general, and making sure that you're doing those things because it's a daily task. I mean, you have to be. To exercise takes time. To find the right foods takes time to be in the right mental state of mind takes time. So, but what we're encouraging you to do so that you too can become crotchety old men is that you take the time for you and be true to yourself, and hey, do these types of things so that you can enjoy life, because that's what life is all about. And with that said, what you got today to close us out on with PC?
You know what? I don't really have anything off the top like I usually do,
Oh
but since we
no.
talk, yeah, but check this out. Check this out. Check this out. Don't throw the towel in on me. I've got 7 spiritual needs
All right.
that relate to the spiritual health of our bodies. And here it goes. Belonging. Belonging is a spiritual need. Meaning is a spiritual need. Hope is a spiritual need. The sacred is a spiritual need. Morality, of course, is a spiritual need. Beauty is a spiritual need. And like you said earlier, about being living to be a crotchety old man, the acceptance of dying is a spiritual need.
There you go.
So if we take these needs into consideration with our daily lives and just apply just a little bit each day, you'll find that you'll begin to like it and apply a little bit more as the days go on.
Mm.
And it comes down to one word, and that's love of self.
There you go.
So let's love ourselves.
There you go. Good stuff. Good stuff. Good
How'd I
stuff.
do?
You did well. You did well. And as we always say on the Crotchety Old Men podcast, hey, if you didn't know,
If you didn't know, now
now
you
you
know.
know. Take care. Be safe.
All right,
Be
peace
healthy.
out, y'all.